Good day to you, handsome stranger. Welcome back to Mick. My name is Jack, the snack that smiles back, and here are today's stories for you all. Quite a few to jumble through, some of them a bit ridiculous, some of them just pathetic people. Either way, we're gonna have some fun. So, sit back, relax, like this video, and enjoy. Am I the a-hole for secretly talking to my ex behind my boyfriend's back? I recently got back together with my boyfriend, and things have been going great. We had been apart for a few years, and we both have had partners in between. Sometimes jealousy and trust issues come up with my boyfriend, because when we broke up, I pretty much jumped on the first guy to show me attention after him, which was about a week or so. So he still holds a bit of resentment towards me for that, and sometimes accuses me of being in contact with my ex still, which I always deny and get mad at him for not trusting me properly. Thing is, I am still in contact with my ex, and my boyfriend is 100% right to think that way. So, am I the a-hole? So, just by the way this is written, I kinda regret choosing this story, but it honestly sounds like as if the boyfriend themselves wrote this story to either paint the girl in a bad light, or they just really suck at conveying a story to make them seem innocent. Like, seriously guys, am I the a-hole for doing this thing that my boyfriend's accusing me of doing behind his back, but I'm totally not doing, but I actually am doing? Like, I'm not sure. Everyone sucks here. Who cares how long it took for you to hook up with someone else? That's not of his concern. You suck though for lying and talking to your ex and getting mad at him for correctly not trusting you. Yay! Stop lying and gaslighting when he accuses you of what you're actually doing. This is either a real stupid person or a total troll. So next story, am I the a-hole for never wanting to be a part of my mother's love life? A lot of MILF fanatics on the internet would be very jealous of you. I'm a 17-year-old female, and my mum and I have a great relationship. Yes, we argue sometimes, but it's usually over the same thing, her love life. For some odd reason, my mum doesn't stay in one relationship for too long. They just never seem to work out. The last time I got close to one of her boyfriends, he ended up being very abusive towards my mother, and that caused a lot of trauma, considering I would be in the other room listening to everything. After abusing her, she would insist that we would never see him again, and even got a restraining order, but he would end up at our house the next day. After those horrible 2 years, she finally moved on, and now she has a habit of sleeping with men while I'm in the next room. And yes, she knows that I am up and not asleep. Okay, but in the sense that she knows and doesn't care, or she knows and doesn't mind? Because those can be two very different justifications. She has done this with one man, and when I told her how I felt about it, she gaslighted me, saying it wasn't a big deal, and that I'm older now, so I sort of shouldn't feel some type of way about it. After that, I never want to be a part of my mom's relationships, even when I'm out of the house. I'm just tired. Am I the a-hole? Yeah, what can you do when you feel too bad to come across as judging your mother's love life? You leave it up to everyone on the internet to do it for you instead. Not the a-hole. I wouldn't want to be near my mum if she did that, and I would also question why she continues to frick men when you can hear everything. It's a little sus. She seems toxic and also has no normal human boundaries between a mother and a daughter when it comes to her schmeck's life, clearly. And even some suggesting that this could be legally considered child abuse, at least psychologically, so there's some ammunition. I feel using the keyword gaslighting here makes it so much easier for us on the internet to immediately assume that the mother is going to be an a-hole in the situation. It's a trigger word that can make us tip the scales in our own favor, just like using the word abuse. While you perceived her as gaslighting you, she could have perceived you as shaming her with having an experience of some kind that normally her previous partner likely shamed her for in the same sort of way. I just think the perspectives here aren't clear enough to make a proper judgment, as it doesn't really seem like she's doing this for you or to really directly affect you, so I'm gonna say no a-holes here. Feel free to 1v1 me bro in the comments though. Next story. Am I the a-hole for blasting my mum on Facebook when she posted about my son? Some info. So my parents for years had the same cleaning lady. I was somewhat friendly with her daughter, who's the same age, but it didn't become a thing until we were 20. I was back home from college for winter break. We got to spend time together, and then I went back to school. Well, that time we spent together resulted in me getting her pregnant, only I didn't know. She didn't want to tell anyone because she was scared of her mum's job and me possibly rejecting our baby. After I finished college, I tried to reach out to her again, and that's when I found out. My son was 3 at that time. We did a paternity test to find out that I was the father. My parents showed their true colors after I told them. I should add, my son's mum's side is Cuban, so he is half Cuban. Now, they always gave subtle racist stuff every now and again, but this is the first time I saw them as full-blown racist a-holes. They denied my son being family. They accused my son's mum of being a gold digger tampering with paternity results to try to trap me into taking care of her kid. Like, if a court DNA test was gonna lie. Unfortunately, they did fire her mum, but she managed to find work. For all these reasons, I stopped having contact with my parents for 3 years since. I'm with my son's mum now, and we've been living together for a while. A few months ago, I got a surprise visit from my grandma on my dad's side. She finally found out why I'm not around the family anymore, and she wanted to meet her great-grandson. Lucky that she is not like the rest of my family, and she was really mad when I told her the whole story. My grandma made a list of changes to her will and says that she wants my son to have something. No coincidence that once this happened, my parents were suddenly wanting to come around and wanting to reconcile, having a feeling she probably took them out of her will or something. Most of their wealth came from her. Because I am rejecting them from being in our lives, my mum decided to post a pic of my son on Facebook recently on his 6th birthday. I saw it because my sister sent it to me. It is her venting about not being in her grandson's life and to tell him happy birthday. Lots of people were giving her sympathy, so I commented, "Remember you said you didn't want a brown baby in the family?" Within that hour, got some reactions, and my mum ended up deleting it. Some of my family say I was an a-hole for embarrassing my mum online, where she was only venting her frustration, and so I should have left it at that. My mum is mad too for using a mistake she made back then to humiliate her to friends and other family who saw the post and are now being negative towards her.
It's almost like your racist actions have consequences.
Hard to feel like I am when I just called her out when she tried to pull the victim card. Am I the a-hole? Knights who say knee decided? Everyone sucks here. Obviously, your racist parents are the main a-holes, but if your parents are legitimately trying to reconcile, you don't need to dunk on them. You can't really be blamed for being upset, and they're probably still awful people, but you could have been a better person, and you know it. You're the a-hole? You should take your parents at face value. They say they want to correct their mistake, then you should give them a chance, not embarrass them in front of everybody. Not the a-hole. You didn't do anything to embarrass your mother. She did all that by herself by throwing you under the bus and expecting you not to push back. People want to be racist, but Cthulhu forbid that they own up to it. Shaking my damn head. Yeah, maybe if their efforts to reconcile weren't conveniently immediately after the grandmother writing them out of the will, then I'd be willing to give them a chance myself. That, and there was allegedly no effort made to at least apologize before making any sort of post showing that she cares and loves for her child that she actually is disgusted by due to her racist tendencies. I don't know about y'all, but I think we can all agree that, yes, look, it is good to encourage people who have derogative thoughts about certain people, that it's, we should encourage them to change when they show signs and efforts of doing so, but when it's got a clearly deceitful undertone underneath it, then I don't think we really should give them any time of day. Next story. Are we the a-holes for asking my mum's new husband to sign a prenup? Now, my parents were married for 30 years. During their life together, both my parents worked hard, working 2 jobs each for many years. Thanks to their hard work, my brother and I had everything growing up, and we are extremely grateful. Both my parents saved enough money to buy multiple properties, which they fixed up, and now are renting and bringing in about 6,000 USD a month, or 120,000 Mexican pesos. My dad sadly passed away 4 years ago. Now, my mom has a new man, and to our surprise, she will be getting remarried to him in a few months. getting this news, my brother and I flew all the way to Mexico to meet this new man. Once there, the new man walks in the house and starts to yell at my mum, demanding food and something to drink. He then tells my mum to kick out the guests, meaning us, out of his house. His tone and attitude changed when she told them who we were. He's trying to hug us, but we pushed away. 3 weeks after meeting him, I gave him a prenup, and I told him, both, that he must sign it before the wedding, which will be on December 15th, 2021, my birthday. If he wishes not to sign, my brother and I will make sure the wedding never happens. We have also taken the precaution measures so they cannot get married in secret. Now, my brother and I feel like he's only interested in the money and not my mum. He has told people that he doesn't need a job because he has a rich wife and all her money will be his. So are we the a-holes for getting in the way of our mother's happiness?
Wowee, a male gold digger in the wild. Oh, those things are rare.
I think your protective efforts are absolutely valiant and very, very nice of you for your mother, but I also think this is something you should at least have discussed with your mother beforehand as well. Despite the clear, a-hole-ish behavior this man displays, these may be traits that your mother is willing to pass over for the sake of just having a decent man in her life that, despite his behavior here, he may actually be a good guy towards her, at least for her needs and her desirability. Whether you can trust your mum is still making the right judgment and that she can take care of herself around this guy, well, that's really up to you and not to me, as I don't really know your mama. His behavior when you first met him was definitely sketchy and rather misogynistic in tone, but for all you know, the comments he's made about her being a rich wife and him not needing to work, that might be him just bantering about his situation being a male that is having to rely on a woman for income. The horror. On to the next story for now. Am I the a-hole for asking my wife to wear adult diapers? Wife is around 16 weeks pregnant, and for the past few weeks, she has been getting up in the night a lot to pee, which wakes me up since I'm a light sleeper. I have to wake up early in the mornings and find it hard to get back to sleep once she has woken me up. And look, there is literally nowhere else for me to sleep since I don't want to be on the couch for many months. Now, I recommended she use adult diapers so that she wouldn't have to get up as much. But she seems to think I am an a-hole for this and has argued about it. Her argument is that adult diapers are for disabled people and people who are older. I say they are for anyone who needs them, such as her. Am I the a-hole? Should I spend the rest of her pregnancy on the couch? Comments say, you're the a-hole for expecting your pregnant wife to pee herself for your comfort. Get over yourself.
No a-holes here. Well, you're making a very reasonable request, and your wife said no. You should take your answer, and hopefully she won't drag out the argument.
No, you're not the a-hole, but you're an idiot if you think pregnant women peeing in a diaper is going to be less quiet than her getting up. Or, that she at all will be comfortable with it, or won't have to get up and wash afterwards anyway. This is one of those stories where it's just, you're not the a-hole, but you're an idiot. You know that, right? You're an idiot? You think your wife, who is able-bodied to go to the bathroom whenever she needs to, should wear a diaper like they are designed for people like her. That's not what diapers are designed for. They're not designed for people to be lazy and pee whenever they want to. Unless you're an elite video gamer, am I right? Also, I get that you term it her pregnancy because she is the one who is pregnant, but buddy, you did take part in this thing, right? You know that, right? Like, it is your pregnancy as well. I get the need to have a good night's sleep is very important, but you are the one who took part in making her in this current state. If you can't handle your wife next to you getting up to go to the bathroom, I can only imagine your effectiveness as a father when your baby is born. I can't genuinely offer a solution here other than just suck it up, but look, if you have any other thoughts yourself down in the comments, let me know. I do kind of feel for this guy. Next story is some tense relationship advice. My 35-year-old male goddaughter, who's 15 years old, recently lost both of her parents, and she began living with my wife, who's 32, and I. Well, my wife is now saying that this isn't what she signed up for, and is beginning to act cold and rude towards her, and it's making me rethink if I want children with her. So, my goddaughter Elizabeth is the daughter of my late best friend and his wife, who both died in a car accident earlier this year. Elizabeth was also involved in the accident, and miraculously survived. Elizabeth doesn't have any other family. Her mother and father were both only children, except for an extremely elderly grandmother who lives in a nursing home. My wife and I talked about it in length and decided to take Elizabeth in. Now, my wife has never lived with anyone other than her parents and significant others. We live in a larger house, and Elizabeth has her own room and bathroom. But my wife has begun getting angry at Elizabeth for doing small things. For example, eating a Pop-Tart that was supposed to be hers. It wasn't the last in the box. My wife never said to anyone not to eat them, and my wife wasn't even the one who bought them. We went camping over the weekend and brought 2 tents, a larger one for Elizabeth and my wife, and a smaller one for me. In the middle of the night, Elizabeth came over to my tent in tears. Apparently, she had a bad dream and woke up loudly. Instead of asking her if she was alright or if she needed anything, my wife just groaned loudly and said, "Are you freaking kidding me? This is ridiculous now." I confronted my wife about it the next day, and she said that she was fed up with living with Elizabeth and that this isn't what she signed up for. Elizabeth isn't a bad kid. She doesn't cause any trouble. She contributes to the house. She takes care of herself for the most part. She cooks dinner sometimes. She has a part-time job. She cleans up after herself. She goes to a therapist 3 times a week with no complaints and is doing everything that is asked of her. I don't understand what she is doing that my wife is so fed up with. Now, Elizabeth wasn't feeling well, so we cut the camping trip early, and when we returned home, my wife went out with her friends for the day. The next morning, I left for a business trip, and Elizabeth went to her cheer camp for 2 weeks, so I still need to speak to my wife about what happened and the general way she's been treating Elizabeth. It's not just the outright things, the passive-aggressive things too, like rolling her eyes or sighing when Elizabeth begins talking. But at this point, I'm not sure if I want kids with her anymore. We were trying, and then stopped because neither of us wanted to have a baby in a pandemic, and then my best friend passed. I don't know if I'm wrong in judging how she would be as a mother to how she's treating Elizabeth. I just don't see how she can be so rude towards someone who has been through so much recently. I don't know how to bring up I don't want kids with her anymore, or just not bring it up until she starts talking about trying again. I suppose the action you take in this relationship is deciding whether or not having kids in the future is a necessity towards you in terms of your future prospects. If that's the case, then I think talking to her about this as soon as possible is the best tactic. At least give her a chance to sort out these issues she's having regarding a child in the household. I mean, for all you know, it could just be the aspect of the fact that it's not really her biological child, so she feels like she's sort of, I guess, guilted in having to take responsibility over this kid that's had to be here due to tragic circumstances that, look, while she doesn't necessarily blame the kid for being in this situation, she definitely probably doesn't enjoy the fact that she has to raise this kid now that has kind of already gone through all the cute years of being a baby. After all, it's the youth of a child where most parents begin bonding with their children, and it's the teen years where you kind of just have to let the child go and make their own choices and learn from their own mistakes. It's also arguably the most vulnerable part of their cycle of growth. Now, obviously, as someone who is a child psychologist with 34 children of my own, I can definitely give valid and more constructive advice than anyone else in the world,
sarcasm.
But I will let you guys give some of your input, despite you clearly knowing less than me.
I don't know anything
So let me know
here.
in the comments below with your thoughts. Am I the a-hole for being uncomfortable with my girlfriend being naked around her dog? I'm a 33-year-old male, girlfriend who's 30 hates clothes, to the point where she has actively researched nudist colonies, and if it wasn't for having to occasionally go into the office, she would have moved there long before she met me. So, she's always naked around the house, which, for me, it's hella nice. She's got a rockin' boat. The issue is her 2-year-old dog. The dog is super cute and fluffy, great pureness, very well trained, 10 out of 10, a good girl. The girlfriend was there when her friend brought the heavily pregnant mum home from the pound, was there at the birth, and fell in love immediately. She sees the dog as the closest thing she'll ever have to a kid, due to medical issues. Now, however, my girlfriend is just always naked at home. Playing with the dog? Naked. Cuddling on the couch? Naked.
She keeps a slip dress by the door for walks, but otherwise, naked. And it's weird, right? Like, I tried to be subtle, but finally, the other day, I sat down with her and pointed out that, yes, she's trained the dog to not stiff human butts, but it's still like something out of an illegal adult movie for her to be naked with an animal all the time. Telling your nudist girlfriend that you were uncomfortable with her being nude, that is gonna go well. Well, she got ticked off and asked me to leave. I tried to talk sense into her, but she wasn't listening to it. I finally left her house, and once I got back to my apartment, I tried texting one of her friends, but she blew up at me, saying that I was an a. My girlfriend is now radio silence. Am I the a-hole here? Yatar, you basically just accused your girlfriend of having schmecks with her dog. How are you not in the wrong here? Yeah, look, man, I can get why you find it uncomfortable, considering the numerous tales online of some women, putting peanut butter in certain places for their dogs to devour said peanut butter. But the difference here is your girlfriend is clearly a nudist in nature. Nudists aren't a schmexual thing. It's purely a comfort, no less than someone who likes to walk around in a bedrobe. The only one in this situation who's applying any sort of schmexual connotation upon the relationship she's having with anyone in her home is you. Maybe ease off the more extreme poon that you've been watching. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter that if she won't stand up for herself, I don't want to hear about it? I divorced my wife almost 20 years ago because her work life became too and so severely toxic to my mental health that I was developing extreme anger management issues. But to keep it short, it didn't matter who it was, she would not stand up for herself at work. So day after day, she's telling me that these work stories about how upset she is, that I'd give her suggestions and nothing would change. Things escalated, and slowly but surely, I was building a resentment that I didn't know was there, and found myself angry anytime she would talk about work. Now, she refused to get therapy or do anything to improve her situation, and our marriage slowly fell apart because of it. It wasn't until I decided to get therapy myself because I couldn't control my anger that I realized the relationship itself had become toxic for me. It took a lot longer after that, but we ultimately divorced as a result. Fast forward to present day, and my adult daughter is now working in the federal government, and she's letting the same thing happen to her. We talk on the phone every other day, live in different cities, and the past 3 phone calls, she's complained about the same situation. I've given her suggestions, and nothing changed. I immediately recognized my anger building, so I just stopped her last night and told her that if she won't stand up for herself, I don't want to hear about it. She called me an a-hole and hung up on me. This morning, my son called to ask why my sister is telling everyone I'm an a-hole to hear my side. And so I told him the abridged version, and he told me I'm the a-hole as well. I know I may have been a little tactless in how I shut down the conversation, but I just can't invite that anger into my life again. Maybe it makes me weak, but I'm just not able to cope with it. Now, edit, instances of standing up with my wife, ooh, on the defensive I see. She'd be in a team of 5, but because she was very efficient, her team lead, super, or manager would keep putting more work on her. Even when she had more work than she could do, she would never say no. At one time, she was on 7 projects, and everyone else on her team was on 1. She wouldn't just say, "I can't, I'm swamped." I would literally suggest she say something like, "I'm already on 7 projects. I won't have time to take on any extra. I know X is only on 1 project right now. Have you asked them?" She would complain and stress out and have breakdowns before the week started because of work anxiety. But still, I wouldn't say no. After years of seeing this happen to my wife, but her never doing anything to change it or to try and improve herself so she'd have the confidence, the anger I was feeling at her workplace was carrying over to my daughter. I couldn't stomach hearing about her work anymore without immediately becoming angry, but I kept bottling it until I couldn't anymore. So now my daughter is letting the same thing happen to her. So just hearing about it is immediately putting me in that place again. And the anger I used to feel is coming up with my daughter. So really breaking this story down, it's about someone who has ended relationships due to his mental health not being effective at helping out that person nor themselves, and now they're afraid that it's going to cause the same problems again in their current relationships they still have left over. So are they the a-hole for wanting to immediately try and deflate any possibility of such mental health problems causing another damage in his current lasting relationships. Of course you're the a-hole. You are 100% to blame for absolutely everything you've described here. Your anger issues are your fault, and they are the problem, not your wife, not your daughter. It's totally normal for the women who love you to want to talk to you about struggles at work. It's a totally normal thing that humans do. They're not asking for your advice. They're not asking for solutions. They want you to listen because you're supposed to love them. They want empathy and understanding, not the a-hole. There is a difference between occasionally venting about work and constantly schmitching about the same problems over and over and over without doing a single thing to attempt to fix them. Everyone sucks here. Different personality types at war with each other. Both sides are to blame. Oh, Natar, your mental health should not be second place to others. Your adult daughter may be repeating the same story as your ex-wife, but you are choosing to not repeat the story. You listened to her vent, you gave her suggestions, and when you realized she isn't changing, you protected your mental health. Formulate your own opinions, but I'm gonna go with the yatar only due to the execution and not at all due to the reasoning. I mean, this story literally mirrors those who talk about friends who have mental health issues and you try and support them and help them out in some way, but they make no efforts to change it, and it's like, oh my, the a-hole, just to give up on them and leave them to their own devices? Of course you're not the a-hole. You've tried to help them out, they've made no effort and seem to just want to sink in their sadness. Then leave them there. That's their problem to deal with now. Now, add on to the fact that it's extremely triggering for you and your own mental health and happiness and state of mind, then yeah, it's especially reasonable for you to back away from this. Provided your daughter knows the backstory of your divorce and why you had to leave and why things had to end that way, her slamming you for trying to protect your mental health and wanting to avoid possibly becoming as toxic as you became towards your own ex-wife, honestly, she can go frick herself. You don't get to vent to someone for your own mental health and then complain when they suddenly want to protect their own mental health. I guess this technically makes me more so everyone sucks here because I do believe it's a case of both sides being terrible and stupid in their own right. Again, you executed this terribly, but your reasoning, I believe, was absolutely sound. Anger is an emotion, and your emotions deserve to be valid. The only reason everyone on the Reddit is calling this guy an a-hole is because he's expressing anger and not tears and crying. As if getting triggered into anger is somehow more powerful and in control and resilient than someone who is crying at the thought of just losing it. I'm no aggressive men's right activist, but the yatars here reek of that men should express their emotions more.
No, not like that.
On to the next story. Am I the a-hole for snapping at my brother-in-law after he told me to settle down while I'm young and fresh? This is the exact example of why I'm someone who does not advocate much for men's rights activists. At least we don't deal with BS to this degree. I'm a 22-year-old female and am currently spending a week, well, was, with my sister who's 25 and her husband who's 39.
Age is just a number!
I dislike him because he's a snobby D-bag who looks down on people. However, my entire family likes to ignore that because he's got money. For the record, he's been disrespectful to me in the past, but I've always kept quiet since he's basically revered in my family. Anyway, I was hanging out by the pool when he came and started talking to me. It was fine, until he asked if I'm in a relationship, and I said no. Then he said that I should seriously consider marriage and settle down while I'm in my prime. I was already shocked, but he continued to say that women have the most value when they're young, and that I should date older men who can provide for me. He literally pointed at my body and said that it will all go downhill in 5 to 6 years, so I should find someone of high status while I'm young and fresh. Is his wife / your daughter not like 3 years older than you already as well? That's a red flag right there. So at this point, I was furious. I said that he needed to mind his own business and that I'd never consider dating, let alone marrying an older man. I told him that he makes old man noises when he gets up from a chair and should worry about not seriously hurting his back soon. And I said that I never liked him anyway, so he should stop bothering me. Anyone else a bit suspicious too that he's trying to talk her into possibly dating a friend of his or something that's equally old and looking for someone young and fresh? If I have to be disgusted thinking about that, then so do you. Of course, my sister came just in time to hear all of that. Now she was ticked and yelled at me to apologize immediately. I explained what he just said to me, and she completely disregarded it and still forced me to apologize. Her husband, who, by the way, was laughing his butt off, even told her to calm down. However, she told me to leave and think about what I said to him. I did leave. I packed my stuff and left the house entirely. My sister told my family, and now they're all mad at me. Everyone is telling me to apologize to keep the peace. They said that I was rude and should be ashamed of myself. They said that I should know that my brother-in-law has a strong personality and that I should learn to accept his views. My mother, especially, has been acting very manipulative and pressuring me to say sorry and do something nice for both of them. Well, my sis gave me this long speech on how I disrespected her marriage and home and that she's more mature, blah, blah. She said that she cannot trust me to behave around her husband and that I need to take the first step by saying sorry. She keeps ranting that I disrespected her in her house while she was nothing but nice and welcoming. So, am I the a-hole here? Nata, let your sister know that she's got about 3 to 4 years before her looks go downhill, according to her literal husband's logic. Everyone sucks here. His comments were completely inappropriate, but if you dislike him so much, then why are you staying at his home for a week enjoying his house and pool? You're being hypocritical. You should listen to the man. Once you hit 30, you'll be stuck with the leftovers no one else wants. Now look, if we were in a society on the brink of extinction with our entire human population, I would understand the logic of needing to have children as soon as you are at that ripe age of, physical stability to handle childbirth and such. But our society isn't that desperate for children. Yet. We actually don't need to treat our schmexual organs as a commodity, and I just really look forward to the update where your sister is clawing back for your relationship to come back again after she loses her husband because he gets with another woman. Anyway, I'm gonna end today's video there. It's gone way over 30 minutes than I planned. Thank you so much for watching. If you're this far in, oh my gosh, you're amazing. I love you so much. I love you. I love you so much. Please like the video to show your appreciation for today's content, and as always, subscribe if you're new to the channel. I love to see your new faces and join the Mick family. With that said, my name has been Jack. I'm gonna stop rambling any longer because my voice hurts. Bye-bye! See you next time.